How are you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the Road Options Trading course. And what we're really quickly going to talk about with this particular Sunday game sermon for the laws of game, we're going to talk about how to be more productive. So this is going to be part one. Most likely this will be a series. Yes, we are moving things to Patreon, but I'm a very sequential person. I got things that are already on the slate before that, but eventually we're going to move everything in. So if you know you don't want to pay for the Patreon stuff, I would tell you to listen to all the laws of game now while they're still available, because over time what we're going to do is start hiding a lot of the videos as we move into Patreon, and you're not going to be able to get them. And the Patreon may not be at a price that you may believe is worth the value of what you get. And I'm not going to argue with you. That just may be your own personal perception of it, because it's going to be kind of valued or kind of priced based around a person that is that wants to implement the actual content as opposed to just get the content. So it's going to be kind of based on that particular market that we're trying to hit. So if you know that you just like the content to listen to it and you don't want to listen to it after that, and you don't want to use it as a resource, I would tell you to really start trying to get through the videos while you can, because you're going to come up here one day and they're not going to be available to you, right? So let's go ahead and get into it. So what we're talking about is how to be more productive, which is going to be part one. This will probably be maybe a 2 to 3, maybe 4-part series. And one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to deal with the easiest part to me of being more productive. And what I want to talk about is getting rid of the small things, almost like kind of cutting the fat out of your life, right? And I was looking to get a graphic of somebody cutting the fat, but I wasn't able to find that. But what we're going to talk about is how you can kind of get some of the small things out of your life. And as a result, it's going to make you more productive. And I'm going to kind of get you to understand what I mean by that. So this is going to be a really good video for somebody that wants to understand how I can be more productive, right? They have a desire to be more productive. They think they can benefit from being more productive, to being an actually more productive person. They are a fan of more productivity in their particular life. And they want to kind of understand how I was able to become more productive in some of the things that I always consistently look to optimize my life, right? So I don't just do it one time. I do it and I look to continue, try to figure out how I can get better and better right on a day-to-day basis. And so one of those things is I try to cut the fat out of my life. And I'm going to kind of explain to you what I mean. One of the things we got to understand is that what we've done in America from a marketing standpoint, right? We've understood from a marketing standpoint that the consumer really desires a lot of choices, right? So the American consumer feels empowered with more choices, with more options, right? And we're not talking about a situation in which like a person has no options. So I don't mean like a person living in a food desert and they don't have access to any fresh food. What I mean is that if you deal with people from other parts of the world, right, even developed countries. So you can deal with somebody maybe from the UK, or maybe somebody from France, maybe somebody from Spain, maybe somebody from South Africa, maybe somebody from Australia, or maybe somebody from Japan. And you have them go to some of our larger grocery retail outlets. And what they would tell you is that there's more food inside that store than they've ever seen before in their life, inside a store, right? So they would like explain to you, there's so much food inside this store, this is ridiculous, because it's just too much food. And it's because the American consumer really feels better if they have way more choices than they can ever utilize. To them, they think that's part of their freedom and their empowerment. So what we do as marketers is we just make sure that they got more choices. So we may know that they're only going to really look at 3 items, but instead we give them 25, right? And then we just got to figure out from a business model, a cost constraint situation, how we can lower the cost of bringing those choices to them, because in reality, we know they're only going to buy 3. Okay. But we know they want to come in and see all these particular choices. So how do we create a model in which we can do that, but it still works for us? So the issue is that the average person wants a lot of choices, but what they don't understand is that in trying to observe all those choices and make a decision, they're really wasting a lot of their time. And that's time that they can't get back. So we can make a million choices, but we can never make more time. So when you have a scenario where you go to the toothpaste aisle to buy toothpaste, and you now are trying to figure out of these 30 different types of toothpaste, which toothpaste do I buy? That's taking a lot of time out of your day. However, for the average American, they don't really have anything else to do except try to figure out what kind of toothpaste they're going to buy. Then they're going to go to the hair care aisle and they're going to look at every hair care option they have, and they're going to try to figure that out. Then they're going to go to the cereal aisle and they're going to look at all the cereal options, and they're going to try to figure out, what cereal they're going to buy. And so this is their life. They think that is like a form of freedom. It's a form of empowerment. Why I have all these particular choices as a consumer, right? Even though I'm only going to buy one, right? And they don't understand that I'm losing productivity by being involved in this. So then when you transfer into the world of entrepreneurship, or you start to become self-employed, or, you try to figure out some kind of way to control your own situation and steer your own ship, and you have some of those old habits as a consumer, and now you're trying to move into being a producer, it can be detrimental to what you're doing, because you'll look up at the end of the day and you would not have done anything. And on top of that, you're going to be fatigued. Why? Because you're getting caught up with all these choices. So you got to understand that your brain works a certain kind of way, and your brain, but most importantly, the subconscious part of your brain, it can't differentiate like the conscious part of your brain. So let me give you an example. If you have to decide whether or not you're going to spend a certain amount of money on something, kind of based on how the numbers look from a financial standpoint, right? And you're trying to determine that. And then at the same time, you're going to the supermarket and you're on the cereal aisle and you got 70 different boxes of cereal and you're trying to figure out which cereal you're going to buy. And so you're sitting on the aisle deliberating. Do you know your brain doesn't know the difference between those two types of decisions? Your brain doesn't understand the difference between those two types of decisions, especially on the subconscious level. What your brain understands is that I got to spend a certain amount of energy trying to figure out how to make this decision. And you only got so much, energy or output that you can utilize per day. You only got so much productivity per day, and that's going to be on a person by person basis. And what you can often find is that your productivity can spike and go down over the course of a day. So if you're spending your productivity or your productivity output on trying to determine things like, what kind of cereal am I going to get? What kind of shoes am I going to put on? What kind of clothes am I going to put on? What kind of toothpaste am I going to buy? Okay, I'm at the drive-up window. What kind of food am I going to get right now? And so then now when you go and you have to do something involved with your business, and then you got to try to figure out how to make a very important decision, well, you've utilized a lot of your productivity output on these very, very small, minute things. So one of the ways in which you can be more productive is you have to decide that, you know what, I need to cut the fat out of my life. So here's some things that I want to suggest to you. First thing you can do is you can determine what kind of food do you like to eat, and how long can you stand eating that food every day? It's going to sound weird to a lot of people because it's going to sound like, oh, maybe you acting like you in prison. But I want you to understand something. What kind of food do you like to eat, right? And how can you make it to where you eat that food on a regular basis? Why? So you're not spending time trying to figure out what you're going to eat. That's already been determined. Now you can hire somebody once you get enough money, they can just create a menu for you, right? And then they determine what you're going to eat. But as long as you're still having to actively make your food choices, why don't you try to figure out, how can I just stack my house with the food that I know I like to eat? And I just essentially just almost, warehouse it, and I know it's there. So then it's very simple. I've maybe knocked my food choices down to maybe 2 or 3 different type of meals. And I just go in and I make those meals. I have somebody make those meals for me. And I don't spend a lot of time deliberating. I don't want to spend 30 minutes trying to figure out what I'm going to eat. Another option you can do food wise is, you have those, like they send the meal to your house. You just got to cook it. And then what you can do is essentially you can schedule out what meals they're going to send. And you can just schedule that, 30 days out, or however that particular setup works. So the food is going to come to you that day, or it's going to come to you, in a weekly situation, and you already know what you're going to get, and it's already there. And then you just stick to the schedule. And then once you get into that particular routine, it's going to be very easy. But see, the problem is you got to deprogram yourself from thinking that every day you're supposed to decide what you're going to eat. Because like when I used to work at 9 to 5, we'd be like, hey, where y'all want to go for lunch? And then we would literally spend like 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out where we're going to go for lunch. Right. And then once you figure out where you're going to go for lunch, and let's get the menu of that place, because we would get all the menus of the places that we went for lunch. Now let's look at the menu and try to figure out what we're going to get. Well, I had the sesame chicken last time. So this time I might get the General Tso's chicken. I don't know. Do I want to get the General Tso's chicken, or do I want to get the beef and broccoli? Well, I might want to get the Mongolian chicken. Well, I don't know if I really want Chinese this time. Why don't we go to like the sub place? Well, what sub you want? Well, I had the steak and cheese last time, so maybe this time I want to get the turkey club. Well, I may not want the turkey club because I'm scared of their mayonnaise, so maybe I should get the the whatever, the meatball. So you going through all of these decisions, but at the same time, none of it has to do with your productivity. So if you can figure out how to get that out of the way, then you don't have to worry about that, and you can just worry about your productivity output. Now, you can't have time to where, you get a nice meal or something of that nature, but your day in and day out decisions, you got to really ask yourself, how much time are you spending on very minute things? Here's another example. The kind of clothes you wear. If you're lucky enough I used to work in healthcare, so I pretty much wore a uniform every day. So I was lucky, right? So what I did when I worked in healthcare, I would go to the place where you bought scrubs, and I would buy like 3 or 4 different colors of scrubs, and I just would rotate them, right? I wasn't buying the crazy designs, and then I bought 3 or 4 different colors of scrubs, and I just would rotate them. So I knew what I was gonna wear. So I wore 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on Friday I wore the same scrubs I wore on Monday as long as they weren't dirty. On the weekend, I washed them and I ran them back that next week. And I just did that over and over and over again till I bought some new scrubs. So I made it really, really easy for me to figure out. But if you don't have that type of job where you wear a uniform, you may have the type of job where you have to, wear different type of clothes. How long are you spending trying to figure out what kind of clothes to wear? So one of the ways in which you can become more productive is you just get that out of the way. You just wear the same clothes all the time. Right? And that sounds weird to people because we've been taught to express ourselves and our creativity and the kind of clothes we got on. But that's what most consumers do. I'm trying to get you to understand how to be a producer. So unless you got a special event, you just wear the same clothes all the time. And I don't mean the actual same clothes. I mean just literally the same type of outfit over and over and over and over again. It makes it really, really easy because you don't have to wake up and try to figure out what to wear, what matches. You already know what matches. You already know what works. Just wear it over and over again. And so it's these really small things that you can do in your life to really make yourself more productive. And so you got to realize is because what I want you to start thinking about is how can I use my output and my productivity on really, really big problems. So let me give you a story of what I was dealing with. So I'm looking to hire somebody to deal with this particular automation situation I have with Discord. And I was speaking to a guy not this morning, but the morning of when I'm doing this particular audio. It's not probably the morning when you hear it. And I was explaining to him, I understand what you're telling me you believe is going to work for this. But what I need you to understand from me is that I need you to test it to make sure it works, because what I don't want is for you to implement it. And then I find out as people come into the particular Discord that the roles are not being assigned properly. Then I now have to try to figure out how to get back in contact with you, get you to understand what's going on because you haven't tested it, right? There's a 12-hour lag between me and this particular person because of where we're at on the planet, right? Then you got to go and implement it. Then we got to start this process all over again. So I say, if you believe that this is the problem and that this is going to be the solution, I need you to implement it and test it out because I make zero money worrying about this problem. So I don't want to worry about it. I want to worry about what is going to drive income into my particular business, going to help me establish better relationships with my customers. Those things are not accomplished by me worrying about roles in a Discord group, whether or not they're being assigned when a person comes into a group. That does nothing for me. That's something that is a value add to my customer, but it doesn't really push the needle in my business. So I don't want to spend any time worrying about it. Because what'll happen is a lot of times you'll have a scenario like this, and then you as the business owner will have to spend all the time troubleshooting it and making sure it works properly, even though you pay somebody to solve the problem. So you got to be really upfront with these people. Let them know, look, I'm paying you to solve this problem. I'm paying you what you said you require, but I need you to work all the way through the problem, then test it. Then hand me something that you've already tested that you know works, right? So then when I can roll it out to my customers, I can roll it out to my customers and get back to what? Solving major problems in my business. Because the average person, because they're a consumer and they don't solve problems in what they do, right? They go to other people to get their problem solved, but they don't consume themselves with solving problems. They don't understand how important your productivity output is. You only got so many hours per day of being really productive. Everything else, you just spinning your wheels. So if you spend those very small window of productivity hours on things like what kind of food I'm gonna eat today, what kind of clothes I'm gonna eat today, I gotta deal with this particular issue. It's very, very small, but it's gonna take me a long time to work through it. But it's not gonna really move the needle in your business. And people will try to get you consumed with this type of stuff. And you gotta understand is that even if you're successful in solving those particular things, it will not move the needle in your business. So if you really want to become more productive, you got to ask yourself, how can I trim some of the fat in what I got going on in my life? Right? And it doesn't mean that you got to become this vanilla person. But one of the marketing things that we've been successful as marketers to get the American consumer to believe that more variety is always better for them because they're just consumers. Right? They're just consumers. We need them to consume more. Right? However, as a producer, sometimes cutting these things out of your life would allow you to focus on the things that are going to actually produce results in what you're trying to build, right? And that's what's going to make you different than the average person in America that's just a consumer. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we don't have America without, 70% of the people in America just being occupied with consumption. But if you want to be part of that other 30%, then you got to try to figure out how to be occupied with production. You understand me? So that's going to be the first video. It's not going to be long. We're not going to spend a long time talking because it's really not that deep. It's just something that you got to really start to look at your life and start to implement. If you got value from it, share it out. Let somebody know about it. This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, and I'll talk to you later.